Hello everyone, this is Krotic giving you Game 2 in a best of 3 matchup. Currently, Liquid TLO has an advantage in this matchup. And let me go ahead and update that for you guys, because so many of you guys want to know who is currently winning. TLO having a 1-0 lead against Socke here on Tal'Darim altars. Socke spawning as the cyan or light blue Protoss player once more. TLO spawning over here on the top left hand side as the purple Terran. Terran versus Protoss here on Tal'Darim altar. Now Tal'Darim altar, a very large map. Opening up for a very interesting macro stylist play. I am expecting a very long game unless Socke tries to do a 4-gate. One of the reasons why 4-gate works out so well is that most Terran players do aggressively expand. And if you aggressively expand, that 4-gate is able to put a lot of pressure on your natural expansion. And since the warp gate essentially removes the fact that it is a large map, and by being able to warp in units straight into your opponent's base, there may not be enough proper defense. We are going to see TLO currently building the barracks over here. We are also getting a gateway as well, so pretty standard builds coming in from both players. We should be getting an assimilator and then followed by a pylon by Socke. TLO already getting that refinery there. Going to get into 15 food after training this SCV, upgrade to an orbital command, and most likely train a Marine. Followed by a Reaper, just because Reapers are so gosh darn good on this map. Probe now coming in and will be very, very lucky in finding his opponent while not revealing where exactly he is. By the timing, TLO may suspect that it is in fact a close spawn, so he may try to scout out this location first and then scout out this location. Meanwhile, this probe still wandering around back and forth. We are still training up probes. It doesn't look like there is that much energy being saved up on the Nexus at this time. And yeah, continuing the chrono boost, and if he does stop at 20 probes, that will be that 6 minute and 30 second 4-gate that is very, very popular and is able to put a lot of pressure. But if the probe production continues like it looks like it is not going to be a 4-gate, as it now going to be placing a pylon on the backside of the base. Not quite sure why that is rallied all the way over there. There you go, setting up the rally back here. We are, in fact, getting the reactor now. Oh, so it is not going to be Reapers. It is actually going to be an early reactor with a barracks now coming into play. And I'm kind of confused as to why TLO is going for such early, or has so much gas still, as a Marine now coming over and able to finish off that scouting probe. I do not believe the probe was able to actually see the reactor being built. He saw an add-on, but unless he actually clicked on it, he would not be able to tell that it is a reactor as opposed to a tech lab. So that reactor is now up and operational, allowing for double training of Marines, and we are finally going into that tech lab. So we may be seeing a Marine Marauder timing push with Stim, especially considering that there is currently no command center over here at the natural expansion. Now, it is very important that Socke not try to expand at this point, even though this map does play a lot towards expanding. If you see that your opponent is not expanding, assume that they are being aggressive and that they are going to try to put some pressure down as well. This is a very large ramp, and that is why it is difficult for Protoss to try to defend this expansion. It will take at least, I believe, 4 force fields to essentially block this ramp. And what's even more difficult is that your opponent may just try to come along this far side instead and then flank you by keeping units here and then walking units up the ramp at the same time. Production-wise, we are getting more and more barracks units, so we now have 3 Raxes running. SCV production has been slowed down for just a moment, as I'm not quite sure what TLO is going for. Perhaps he is happy with his current SCV count. Only 1 SCV on gas, and that does make a lot more sense now, as he already has a decent amount of gas, and now the Marines perhaps going to try to do a timing push with those units there. The Marauders do have concussive shells, and the damage is going to be very, very significant. The Stalkers now desperately trying to run away. There is a proxy pylon up on that high ground in order to be able to warp in units and perhaps do a flank. there is a Nexus over here as well, so Socke has to be very careful as that force field not really slowing down any of the units. The Marauders now trying to come into position as well. The Marauders do have that concussive shell and now going to catch some of the units in the middle of a transition. Socke getting flanked. A very, very important Guardian Shield now coming in as the Zealots are now escaping that Guardian Shield, and that is going to be a problem. That Guardian Shield now preventing a lot of that damage as now going after the very more expensive Stalkers and Sentries. Yeah, the Sentries now going to get destroyed. And I believe the Marauders should best be able to kite and finish off more units, but the Stalkers also being warped in midfield once again, going after another Stalker. Down goes and more Stalkers as well. Zealots still bringing up the rear, and a lot of early aggression by both players, but Socke, I believe, winning out in this battle just because he has a Nexus already warped in at his main base, so he is going to be able to transition into this much more easily. One Marine just running around another Marine there, but able to finally finish it off, and there you can see the losses are starting to even out just a little bit further. More Marines and Marauders coming back, activating that Zonaga Watchtower here. Zealots also coming in as well. And we'll see what these players try to do. Oh, Marauders going to get even more kills very, very easily just because of sheer numbers. More units now warping in as well as the Zealots are just being microed. So TLO able to control 3 groups of units all at the same time, getting a lot of damage. And now the Stalkers being forced to pull back. But you can see now Socke sitting on 38 probes compared to 22 SCVs as the command center by TLO finally being placed down, as the Stalkers now perhaps going to try to test the waters on this front door, but going to lose a lot of units as these Marauders and Marines walking in here. There's only 2 Zealots and 1 Stalker to fend off what is a decent sized army. Probes now need to come off the mineral line in order to perhaps get some damage in. As you can see, the Marines and the Marauders getting some damage. A Zealot also going to fall behind as well, as both sides suffering a lot of damage continually. Stalkers are having a very difficult time trying to run away, and it looks like TLO is just going to make Socke pay for that very aggressive expansion. The probes do move a little bit more quickly, and it looks like those probes are able to get some damage, but the harvester count difference not as large as you would expect at this stage. Marauders and just finishing off Zealots. The Zealots do not have charge. 40 probes, and now the Marines now once again coming in, Stalkers coming in as well, as the probes now absorbing a lot of that damage. The probes take 4 shots from a Marauder in order to get destroyed. And now the Stalkers are just continuing to try to run away. Zealots are going to engage once more. As all of this early pressure, TLO needs to get more damage onto these probes in order to really make it worthwhile as these Marauders are coming in and simply getting destroyed. The Stalkers now coming in, getting a lot of damage, and I think TLO's numbers are just being depleted too quickly for TLO to really deal any additional damage. These units perhaps need to retreat. The Stalkers, if they're able to move out here, should have little to no difficulty at all. Very nice play by TLO, being sure to move the units off to the north side in order to avoid those Stalkers here, and now maybe able to get in a little bit more damage. No, still absolutely no stim pack being researched as Marines and Marauders coming back in once more. Down goes another probe. More probes are going to get destroyed. Another probe now taken down as the probes now trying to run away even further. I believe 1 Stalker, and now the Stalkers and Marines are going to be able to dish it out. The probes getting a lot of damage onto that 1 Marauder there, and I believe that 1 Marauder will just fall over. Sentries and Stalkers now going to try to test the door, but not be able to do that much damage. There are double bunkers as the harvester count about even now, but there are also 4 mules in play, so TLO just very, very ahead at this stage with a very strong economy. If you take a look at the workers killed, 19 workers compared to 1, but that is also because not as many workers were trained at all. Now, as both of these players transition into a different strategy, and TLO already hoping that he did enough damage, Socke going to continue to press his economic luck and try to warp in a Nexus over here at the 3 o'clock low ground brush expansion of Tal'Darim Altar. Production-wise, we are getting the robotics bay, and we already have the robotics facility, so Colossi are in the not so distant future. Socke still very, very happy with his probe count, but still trying to add more units. Perhaps should be chrono boosting his Nexus in order to get a stronger probe count. He does have the resources for it, but he is currently supply locked or close to supply locked at 80 over 84. And right as I say that, Nexus finishes warping in addition to a pylon, so not so much anymore. Back over here, TLO now playing a very dangerous game as well, trying to expand and take his natural third base over here by the destructible rocks at the 10 o'clock location. It is on a higher ground, but it has a very, very wide open ramp choke point that a lot of gateway units would be able to warp in or walk in very, very easily. You can see Stalkers are now being added, a lot of probes being transferred over here, already sitting at 12 probes, just slightly less than the diminishing returns, as the Zealots and Stalkers now finishing off this third base expansion, and perhaps a Nexus needs to be warped in just a moment. TLO now making his way out, Stim Pack still not yet done, and that's going to be a definite problem as TLO is not going to be able to kite his units nearly as effectively. There you go, Stalkers now trying to come in, there's the force field, but the force field not getting that much damage there as the Colossus now being forced to pull back. Another Zealot taking a lot of damage there, but able to retreat, and now the Marauders and perhaps going to be doing a drop straight into the base while having a group of units here. You can see the Stalkers and Marines going to battle it out. A very small actionary force, and now a drop. And now over here, but the proxy pylon is in play. Socke also having Socke losing that pylon, and now the units may realize that they need to retreat and come back home in order to fight back against what is a decent-sized army, but still without Stim Pack. That is a definite issue, as the Stalkers should be able to easily destroy multiple medevacs in just a moment. The Stalkers are now unable to get over here, and now we are going to have units straight drop into the base. The Stalkers, the Marines now dropping over here on the backside as well, and now once again being picked up. So TLO just playing a very mind-confusing game for Socke, as the Stalkers now getting damage onto a medevac. Down goes one medevac. A second medevac also getting destroyed as well, as more units coming in to reinforce. The Colossi now coming in from behind. Those Marauders are not going to have anywhere to run, anywhere to hide. And this drop did not deal nearly as much damage as TLO would have personally liked. We do see that the third base is already up, and mules are going to be called down as well. A third mule may be called down there in just a moment, as Socke still training up more probes. Production-wise, we are getting the ground level 1 weapons upgrade, level 1 armor upgrades, in addition to more and more Colossus added to that army. We are sitting at a 4,300 resource army compared to a 3,300, so a 1,000 resource difference between these two armies. But Socke now establishing essentially his fourth base should have a decent economic lead. He also has 77 probes compared to 4 mules. Those mules giving TLO a significant advantage in terms of minerals, or keeping up in terms of minerals. But you can also see that he is currently behind in gas. 6 gas play as a scanner sweep finally revealing that Socke is trying to set up an expansion over here. Socke feigning that he desperately needs this expansion. It is not the case, since he already has this expansion at the 3 o'clock location, and I do not believe that TLO has. In fact, no, he has not scanner sweep this location and does not yet know about this one expansion at the 3 o'clock location. Colossi now once again on the move, but once again retreating. Level extended thermal lance range already upgraded. Level 1 weapons and armor upgrades have been completed, but the level 2 weapons and armor upgrades, in addition to the Viking weapons upgrade, now being researched for those Vikings and Banshees, allowing faster takedowns on those Colossi, even with Guardian Shield. Vikings end up dealing only 22 damage per attack against Colossus with the Guardian Shield up and the level 1 armor upgrades against, I'm not gonna, I lost my train of thought in the middle of the sentence. Haha. Thanks to everyone who's currently watching me on Justin TV. I am trying to practice more and more live streaming and letting you guys know that I do not watch any of these games beforehand. And Marauder now battling and now trying to take down one of those Stalkers, but the army of Socke now coming in to add in to just bolster those numbers as the Colossus now once again on the move. You can see that Socke needs to perhaps try to take another expansion, and it looks like this expansion is the natural choice, as this one has a set of destructible rocks and he does not want to move the majority of his army over onto this side. Income-wise, Socke now sitting at about 2,000 minerals a minute, 1,900 minerals a minute, 700, 800 gas a second. And as soon as Socke gets up to 200 food, that is just a perfect opportunity for Protoss to attack. Just because gateways, wow, 11, not 11, 13? No, 15 gateways now currently in production or already in play, and that is going to allow him to just bolster his units very, very quickly. And as soon as those units are added into this army, it is just, as soon as those gateways are added into production, as soon as Socke loses 25 food worth of his army, he can instantaneously replace it, and that's one of the benefits of Protoss, especially if a proxy pylon is nearby to get those reinforcements in rather early. Colossi now once again in full retreat. Vikings now trying to make their way over. There are a couple photon cannons, but not very many at all, as the Colossi now getting destroyed. One already taken down, as the Stalkers are not able to do very much, not able to see those Vikings over there, as the Colossi need to really focus down onto these units. The Colossi now getting as much damage as possible. No Guardian Shield, another Colossus getting taken down, and now the force fields in the front not helping at all. As you can see, the Marauders now going to perhaps try to run in and test this front door. There are going to be a lot of probes in transition doing that walk of shame, focusing down another cannon over here as the Vikings are now pushing in, but the Colossi are very, very far behind, being very careful to finish off these Zealots, and the Vikings are now trying to get even more damage. The Stalkers do not have Blink, unable to get around over here, but we do see Dark Templars joining the army as well, trying to add to it. More walk of shame coming in. Socke now rewarping in that Nexus in order to cut down on that mining time. And now you can see at almost 2,000, 3,000 resources in the bank, there should be no problem for Socke to replenish his forces. And there you go. You can see him just warping in units very, very quickly. And where are those units being warped in? As another Nexus now being taken and brought into place. We are now 23 or 24 game minutes into this battle, as this game just currently continues. More Colossi being rolled out. Zealots have the Zealot leg upgrade, so that's why they're able to keep up with the Stalkers, as well as the Marauders are on the low ground. You can see more productions being built over here. But TLO still in trouble. He is only running off of he's only currently running off of 1.5 mineral patches, as the Vikings now trying to engage. Stalkers coming in and getting a lot of damage onto those Vikings. Oh, force field from behind, preventing those units from being able to engage, as the Vikings are now getting more and more damage. More force fields coming in as well, as the Vikings trying to take down multiple Colossi, and the Stalkers are able to just blink away, traveling at the speed of light. And now TLO more than a significant lead at this time, as the Vikings and Marauders are continuing to push and push. There are High Templars joining in on the fight. Level or Size Storm about to be completed, as the Dark Templars trying to get in some damage. And now with no Ghost in the foreseeable future, this is going to be a brilliant tech switch. The Colossi now trying to figure this out, trying to weaken the rest of this army. Dark Templars getting plenty of kills already and continuing to add to that number, as the Zealots are now charging in and cleaning up the backside as well. The Zealots cooldown on that charge. Nil in play, a scanner sweep revealing and returning one of those Zealots there, as another group of Zealots finish down those units. A Viking have a very, very bad day, not keeping up with the rest of his army. If you look at the mineral count, you would say that TLO is in the lead, but the total resources show the game is about even. And the fact that Socke is sitting on 2,600 resources while at 200 food population is a very, very good indicator that he'll be able to replenish his units in just a moment. Back here, we are getting some more SCVs and more mules called into play. We are now going into quadruple starport for mass Banshees this late in the game. Cloaking research now also being is also underway as well, about 50 seconds away from being completed, as the Stalkers are now trying to make their way out. The Medivacs know that there is an expansion over here and want to try to take it down. Will the Stalkers be able to blink over in time? That is the question. The Stalkers able to move at the speed of light, and that is going to help. And oh, the Stalkers did not see those Medivacs, so those Medivacs now going to be able to simply drop into this location. There are a couple of these photon cannons nearby, as the Stalkers and Zealots are still wandering around. The Stalkers and High Templar is nearby. Is the High Templar going to be able to get off a feedback onto a Medivac and perhaps get a lot of damage dealt very, very easily? The High Templar does not have enough energy just quite yet. Stalkers and Zealots now coming in as the units are now trying to reinforce, and now no feedback at all onto the Medivac, as the Zealots are now being warped into play. There is a drop over here by TLO as well, so a double drop in 2 locations at once. The Medivacs being forced to pull back. No blink to catch up to those units, as more micro happening here. High Templar doesn't have any energy at all. How is that possible? Oh, perhaps he got a feedback onto one of the Medivacs, and the Zealots are still having more and more of an issue. The Medivac's looking to come back in, re-drop in, and TLO, Socke having so many High Templar. There we go. There's the High Templar that I was waiting to see, and so much damage across the main portion of this army. You can see that how much damage is dealt. No observer nearby, and the High Templars didn't have time to feed back these units. Archons should perhaps be merged. There's a Psystorm, and wow. Base 3 armor on a High Templar, absorbing a lot of that damage from that Banshee. And then a blind Psystorm to take it. The Marauders and Marines still finishing up much of this fight here. You can still see a very large standing army by both of the players, as Zealots are still trying to be warped in. Stalkers now coming in as well. Stalker's going to finish off the Medivacs, and those Marauders definitely have nowhere to run. This Nexus, however, never got taken down, so that is a definite boost for Socke. And even though TLO has played a brilliant game so far, I think that Socke has the advantage at this point, income-wise. More than double the amount of minerals, setting up or already having another Nexus here. You can see the Marauders and the Marines trying to make their way out. High Templars have enough energy for Psystorm, and that is crucial as well. You can see Banshees now trying to come in. The Banshees going to be getting some feedback onto those. Yeah, High Templars getting some feedback, and then a feedback onto a Raven as well, so no point defense drones. As the Zealots now charging in, SCVs also joining in on the fight. You can finally see another expansion being brought into play by TLO. SCVs being brought over as the main army now coming in over here. A drop finally coming into position, as the Stalkers are now finishing off the Medivacs, being very, very careful to finish off the more crucial portion of that army. That High Templar unable to get that much damage, but I believe an observer is nearby. If not, yeah, now bringing up the rear, as the Banshees are going to be Banshees are going to be shot down one at a time. Down they go, and the Zealots now finishing off the Marauders here, and now standing armies 7,000 versus 3,500. TLO playing a brilliant game, but still unable to overcome the macro of Socke. Socke played just a very, very heavy expansion strategy here on Tal'Darim Altar, as another High Templar now getting taken down. A lot of Banshees being used, and being used very effectively. Stalkers may be able to just blink up onto that high ground. Not quite sure why they're not doing so. And by blinking, yeah, going to be able to get a lot of damage, finish off some of those Banshees there. And down goes one, down goes another. Oh, but taking down a Colossus first, so that was a give me Colossus, as Socke could have easily pulled back with that one particular unit, as this battle still continues. Colossus now on the move. Zealots of this army, 7,000 resource army, continuing to push out. You can see this. There is one planetary fortress. Resources are running very, very low. Perhaps a lot of mules being called in. Yeah, you can see 5 mules being called in. But these Colossi are going to have more than enough range to deal damage towards this planetary fortress. Zealots now coming in as well. Stalkers getting taken down. Psystorm, oh, finishing off many of those SCVs as they walk straight through. Psystorm now coming in from behind as well. Feedback onto the Ravens. A point defense drone running out of energy. And there's the GG by TLO. TLO losing Game 2 in this best of 3 series, forcing a Game 3. Very, very great game here on Tal'Darim Altar. Stay tuned for Game 3 in this best of 3 matchup between Liquid TLO and Socke. Here, actually, I don't know what the map is, but thanks for watching Game 2 here on Tal'Darim Altar.